The crib was assembled. The paint, a soft whisper white, was dry. But Irina Hayes, 7 months pregnant, was gone. The only thing left was a note taped to the empty nursery door, 4 sentences that would ignite a firestorm. I saw you. I know what you are. Don't look for me. The baby deserves better. When her husband Marcus Hayes read those words, his first call wasn't to the police. It was to his lawyer. He didn't feel grief. He felt a cold, sharp panic. She knew. But what did she know, and who had she seen? To anyone in the affluent suburb of Silver Creek, Irina and Marcus Hayes had it all. He was the dynamic, charismatic CEO of Hayes Innovations, a tech startup that had just landed a massive government contract. She was the brilliant, beautiful former forensic accountant who had given up her career to support his, and who was now 7 months pregnant with their first child. Their sprawling modern home, all glass and polished concrete, was a testament to their success. But Irina hadn't given up her skills. She had merely redirected them. For 6 months, a tiny, cold dread had been growing in her stomach right alongside her baby. It started with the small things. The hushed phone calls Marcus took on the balcony, the late nights at the office that reeked of an unfamiliar, expensive perfume, not her Chanel, but something heavier, muskier. It was the way he flinched when she touched his phone, the way his eyes slid past hers when she asked about his day. Marcus, a master of gaslighting, had a defense for everything. The calls were sensitive negotiations. The scent was from a client meeting at a cigar lounge. Her questions were hormonal and paranoid. Irina, honey, you're overthinking. He'd coo, rubbing her swollen feet. This pressure, it's all for you, for us, for the baby. But Irina had spent a decade tracking multi-million-dollar deceptions. She knew the patterns of a liar. She knew the scent of a cover-up. On Tuesday, her suspicion became a physical, sickening certainty. Marcus had claimed he was flying to Chicago for a 24-hour merger talk. A last-minute emergency. He'd kissed her forehead, his lips cool, and told her to rest for the baby. 3 hours later, her best friend Chloe Benson called, her voice bright. Hey, I'm at the Willow Creek Brio picking up that ridiculous lavender latte I love. I just saw Marcus's car, the black Tesla, in the parking lot. I thought he was in Chicago. Irina's blood ran cold. The Willow Creek Brio wasn't near his office. It was a discreet high-end cafe in a secluded part of town known for its private booths. He had a last-minute change. Irina managed, her voice shaking. He's meeting a local investor. I forgot. Oh, okay. Well, want me to bring you a scone? No, Chloe. I have to go. She hung up, her mind racing. He had lied. A bald-faced, easily discoverable lie. He was getting sloppy. Or he just didn't care anymore. She grabbed her keys, ignoring the voice in her head screaming that she was 7 months pregnant and shouldn't be driving while hysterical. But she wasn't hysterical. She was cold. She was a scientist, and this was an experiment. She just needed to see the data for herself. She parked across the street from the Brio, her heart a trip hammer against her ribs. She didn't have to wait long. He walked out, not with a grizzled investor, but with her. She was, in a word, gorgeous. Tall, with legs that went on for days, wrapped in a forest green dress that clung to every curve. Her hair was a waterfall of impossible platinum blonde, and she laughed, tilting her head back, her hand resting on Marcus's arm in a gesture of intimate, casual ownership. Marcus, her. Marcus was beaming. He wasn't the tired, stressed husband he was at home. He was the vibrant, charming man she had first fallen in love with. He leaned in, whispered something, and the woman laughed again. Irina felt the betrayal like a physical blow knocking the air from her lungs. She watched as he handed the woman a thick manila envelope. The woman took it, sliding it into an expensive-looking leather briefcase. It looked like a transaction. A payoff. Then the woman did something that shattered Irina's last defense. She stood on her tiptoes, kissed Marcus fully on the lips, a long, lingering kiss, and then walked to a sleek silver Maserati parked 2 spots down from Marcus's Tesla. Irina sat frozen as both cars pulled out and drove in opposite directions. She stared at the empty space where they had been, her vision blurring. It wasn't just a suspicion. It was a fact. It was a woman. It was a kiss. It was an envelope. She drove home in a daze, the world tilting. Every promise, every shared smile, every future plan felt like a prop in a stage play she hadn't known she was performing. She walked into the house, the silence deafening. She walked past the kitchen, past their living room, and up the stairs. She stopped at the nursery. The whisper-white walls, the hand-carved wooden mobile of stars and moons, the tiny empty crib. She had been building a nest. He had been building a lie. A cold, hard resolve settled over her, replacing the white-hot pain. She wasn't the fragile, hormonal victim he'd tried to paint her as. She was Irina Hayes. She was a forensic accountant. And she had just been handed her first piece of evidence. She didn't cry. She got to work. Marcus Hayes checked his reflection in the smoked glass elevator of his office building. He straightened his custom-tailored Zegna tie and ran a hand through his perfectly coiffed hair. The meeting with Isabel had gone perfectly. The final tranches of capital were being moved. Another week, maybe 2, and they'd be untouchable. His phone buzzed. A text from SV, package delivered. Subject: confirmed receipt. Your move. Marcus smiled. He'd handle SV later. First, he had to play the part of the returning husband. He'd already sent the flight delayed text to Irina full of fake apologies. He'd pick up flowers, rub her feet, and listen to her complain about her back. The thought made him sigh. She had become so maternal, so dull. He walked into his house at 8:02 p.m. Irina, I'm home. Silence. The silence was absolute. Not just quiet, but a heavy, oppressive void. There was no TV on, no music playing, no sound of her pottering in the nursery. Irina, he called again, a flicker of annoyance, not concern in his voice. The kitchen was dark. A single teacup sat on the counter, cold. He walked through the downstairs. Nothing. He climbed the stairs, the expensive wool runner muffling his footsteps. This isn't funny, Irina. My flight was hell. He checked their bedroom. Empty. The ensuite bathroom. Empty. He could feel a strange prickle on his neck. He walked down the hall to the one room she spent all her time in. The nursery door was slightly ajar. He pushed it open. The room was pristine. The whisper-white walls seemed to glow in the twilight. Everything was in its place, except for his wife, and the single white envelope taped to the front of the crib. It was addressed in her neat, precise script, Marcus. He tore it open. It wasn't a letter. It was a note. I saw you. I know what you are. Don't look for me. The baby deserves better. Marcus read it once. Twice. A third time. His blood turned to ice, but not for the reasons one might expect. He wasn't heartbroken. He wasn't even sad. He was instantly and profoundly terrified. I saw you. She saw him. Saw him where? At the Brio. It must have been. I know what you are. What he was. A cheat. A liar. Or something else. The ambiguity of the phrase was terrifying. Don't look for me. This was the part that made his corporate raider brain kick into high gear. This wasn't a plea. It was a command. A threat. The baby deserves better. He crumpled the note in his fist. His first instinct was to call Isabel his partner in all things, but he stopped. If Irina saw him, did she see him with Isabel? No, he'd met Isabel at the office, as always. The Brio, that was. He pulled out his phone and dialed a number. Yes. A cold female voice answered. Serafina, it's Marcus. We have a problem. She's gone. Gone. Vanished. Left a note. She said, I saw you. Did she see you today? At the Brio? There was a pause. Impossible. The booth was private. I was meticulous. Someone saw my car, Marcus hissed. She knew. She knew. This changes everything. The timeline is moved up. Did you get the package? Serafina asked, her voice pure business. Yes, I got it, but it's useless if she's gone to the police. She hasn't, Serafina said with certainty. A woman like your wife. A note like that? She's running, not talking. Not yet. Call your lawyer. Wait 24 hours. Then call the police. Play the part, Marcus. You're the distraught husband. Stick to the plan. The call ended. Marcus sank onto the tiny rocking chair in the nursery, his head in his hands. He smoothed out the crumpled note. He had to play this perfectly. He had to be the victim. He spent the next 2 hours carefully, methodically building his alibi. He called Irina's phone, leaving a series of increasingly frantic-sounding voicemails. Honey, where are you? I'm home. I'm getting worried. Irina, please, just call me. I'm starting to panic. He sent a text to Irina's best friend, Chloe. Hey, Chloe, have you heard from Irina? She wasn't home when I got back and she's not picking up. Probably just fell asleep at her mom's, but just checking. Then he called his lawyer, Arthur Jennings, a man who specialized in corporate reputation management. Arthur, he said, his voice thick with manufactured panic. My wife. She's missing. The next morning, precisely 24 hours after she officially went missing, Marcus Hayes called 911 to report his 7 months pregnant wife had vanished. Detective Miles Corbin had been on the job for 20 years. He'd seen it all, and he hated domestic cases, especially rich people domestic cases. They were always messy, and the husbands were always just a little too smooth. Marcus Hayes was far too smooth. Corbin stood in the immaculate living room sipping a stale coffee from a thermos. Marcus was on the couch, his head in his hands, but his $5,000 suit wasn't even wrinkled. His eyes were red, but Corbin knew how to fake that just rub your eyes hard enough. Mr. Hayes, Corbin said, his voice a low gravel. Let's go over this again. You got home from a business trip at 8 p.m. You found this note. He held up the note now in an evidence bag. And you waited 24 hours to call us. Why, my lawyer, Arthur Jennings. Marcus stammered. He said that since she left a note, she wasn't missing. She was voluntarily absent. He said she was pregnant and hormonal and probably just at a spa or her mother's, and that calling the police would just create a panic. But I couldn't wait any longer. My pregnant wife is gone. Corbin's eyes narrowed. Jennings. Of course. The shark. Hormonal. Corbin repeated, his voice flat. Right. The front door burst open and a woman flew in, her face pale and blotched with tears. Where is she, Marcus? What did you do? This was Chloe Benson, Irina's best friend. She shoved past a uniformed officer and got right in Marcus's face, her finger jabbing his chest. Chloe, please, Marcus said, putting on his grieving face. Don't you Chloe please me, you monster, she shrieked. She called me. She was terrified of you. She knew you were cheating. The air in the room went still. Corbin looked at Marcus. Is that true, Mr. Hayes? Were you cheating on your pregnant wife? No, Marcus said too quickly. That's ridiculous. She was not herself. The hormones, the pregnancy, she was paranoid. She'd been accusing me for months. She wasn't paranoid, Chloe yelled, tears streaming down her face. She was a forensic accountant. She saw patterns, and she saw you liar. She told me she was going to leave you. She was just waiting until the baby was born. Chloe, you're not helping, Marcus said, his voice turning cold. The mask was slipping. Oh, I'm not helping you, Chloe spat. I'm helping her. Detective. She turned to Corbin, her eyes flashing. Check his alibis. Check his phone. He's been lying to her for a year. And check her sister Isabel. Isabel Croft. She's his CFO. The two of them. They're too close. Irina hated it. Marcus shot to his feet. That is enough. Isabel is her sister. You're grieving Chloe, but you are not going to slander me or her family. Slander. Chloe let out a bark of a laugh. You're the one who flew to the Caymans last month with her. Wasn't it team building you called it? Irina saw the tickets. Corbin stepped between them. Ma'am, thank you. We'll look into all of it. He turned to Marcus. Mr. Hayes, I need a list of your wife's known associates, and I'm going to need your phone and your computers, all of them. Marcus's face went white. The smooth, grieving husband was gone. In his place was a cornered animal. You can't... My lawyer. Your lawyer can talk to my captain. Right now your wife is a high-risk missing person. That baby's viability is on the line. I am not playing games. Give me the phone. As Marcus reluctantly handed over his iPhone, Chloe grabbed Corbin's arm. Detective? She whispered, her voice low and urgent. Irina was smart, smarter than him. If she left, she did it for a reason. She wouldn't just disappear. He did something. Corbin nodded. I'm starting to believe you, ma'am. He walked out of the house, phone in hand. The media vultures were already gathering on the lawn. This was going to be a circus. But as he looked back at the house, at Marcus watching from the window, his face a mask of fury, Corbin had a gut feeling. This wasn't a missing person case. This was a prelude to a homicide. The news reports were frantic. Pregnant local woman Irina Hayes vanishes. Husband fears foul play. A woman in a simple gray hoodie watched the broadcast on a small television, her face impassive. She took a sip of herbal tea and muted the sound. The room was Spartan. A bed, a dresser, a small kitchenette. It was a long-term rental at a place called Safe Harbor Properties, a high-security, low-profile residence designed for people in witness protection or escaping domestic situations. Irina Hayes, very much not missing, placed a hand on her stomach. It's okay, little one, she whispered. Mommy's just at work. The door opened and a woman walked in. It was the gorgeous affair from the Willow Creek Brio. You're all over the news, the woman said, pulling a laptop from her leather briefcase. Good, Irina said. Is he panicking? Panicking doesn't cover it, said the woman. This is Serafina Vance, not SV, not Mistress. She was the top-rated private investigator at Vance Investigative Solutions. He called me, you know, Serafina said, setting up the laptop. Right after he found your note. He thinks I'm his mistress, the one you saw. You played the part well, Irina said, a small cold smile touching her lips. That kiss was convincing. It's a dirty job, Serafina shrugged, not smiling. But it got me close. He's arrogant. He hired me 3 months ago. Guess what for? To find out if I was cheating? Irina said, her voice flat. Bingo. He wanted to build a case to void the prenup citing infidelity. The irony is so thick I'm choking on it. He's paying me a fortune to dig up dirt on you while he's... Well, while he's what? Irina asked, her eyes sharp. This was the flashback, the real story. Irina hadn't just suspected an affair. She knew. She had put a tracker on his car months ago. She had seen the charges from Fidelity Trust International, a bank in the Caymans. She knew he was moving money. Their money. Company money. The affair was a distraction. The real crime was the embezzlement. She couldn't go to the police. Marcus was the golden boy. He'd paint her as the hysterical pregnant wife. She had to get proof. Hard, irrefutable proof. But she couldn't get close enough. He had locked her out of their finances, out of his company. Then a miracle. She checked his browser history. He was sloppy about clearing everything and saw a search for Vance Investigative Solutions. She did her own research. Serafina Vance. The best. Irina had taken the biggest gamble of her life. She had gone to Serafina's office before Marcus could. He's going to hire you, Irina had said, sitting across from the intimidatingly chic investigator. He's going to ask you to investigate me for infidelity. Serafina had raised a perfectly sculpted eyebrow. "And I want you to take the case," Irina said. "Take his money. And while you're investigating me, I want you to be my inside agent. I want you to investigate him." "That's a conflict of interest, Mrs. Hayes." "It's a convergence of interest," Irina corrected. "I will pay you double your retainer. He's cheating on me, but that's not what I care about. He is a criminal. He's embezzling from his own company, Hayes Innovations. And I have a feeling the affair is just the cover." "And who is the affair?" Serafina had asked. Irina's voice broke for the first time. "My sister, Isabel Croft, his CFO." The betrayal was so deep, so profound, it had almost broken her. But Irina had channeled that pain into cold, hard rage. Serafina, who had seen her share of scumbags, took the case. "This is highly irregular," she'd said. "I love it." So Serafina had played her role. She'd let Marcus hire her. She'd fed him useless reports about Irina. Subject went to prenatal yoga. Subject had lunch with Chloe Benson. Meanwhile, she was using the access Marcus gave her to be Irina's eyes and ears. The meeting at the Brio wasn't a tryst, it was the final handoff. "He thinks I'm his ally," Serafina said back in the safe house. "He thinks the envelope I gave him, which I told him was the proof he needed against you, was the only one. He has no idea about the one he gave me." She tapped the manila envelope Marcus had handed her at the cafe. "So, what did he give you?" Irina asked. "He's dumber than I thought," Serafina said. "He thinks I'm just a PI. He doesn't know my background is in digital forensics. He asked me to secure some files for him. He thinks I'm his partner in crime. He gave me a hard drive." "A hard drive?" "Contains the entire offshore accounting ledger for Fidelity Trust International. Every transfer. Every date. And best of all..." Serafina's grin was wolfish. "It has the name of his co-conspirator, the one helping him move the money from inside Hayes Innovations." Irina held her breath. "My sister, Isabel Croft, signed and dated on every transfer authorization." Irina let out the breath she'd been holding for a year. "He's ruined." "They both are," Serafina corrected. "Your note was genius. It sent him into a tailspin. He's focused on the affair and the missing wife, just like you predicted. He's not even thinking about the money." Irina stood and walked to the window, looking out at the anonymous brick wall of the building next door. "He took my career, my home, my family. He's not just going to jail. I'm going to take everything." "So what's the next move?" Serafina asked. "Now we leak, but not to the police. Not yet. Detective Corbin is smart, but he's looking for a body. I'm not a body. I'm a predator. It's time to alert the other predators." Irina turned her face a mask of iron. "Send the full file, anonymously, to the SEC." The SEC investigation moved with a speed that was terrifying. An anonymous tip containing a payload of meticulously organized data had landed on the desk of a senior enforcement agent. Within 48 hours, a quiet freeze was placed on all assets related to Hayes Innovations and Fidelity Trust International. Marcus Hayes found out when his corporate Amex was declined at a gas station. He was unraveling. The police were a constant humming presence. Detective Corbin had been at his house, his office, talking to his staff. The media was camped on his lawn, broadcasting his grieving husband face to the world. And Chloe, that bitch Chloe, was on every local news channel talking about what a controlling, manipulative husband he was. But this was new. He sat in his Tesla, the payment declined message burning on the screen. He tried his personal card, declined. He called the bank. "Sir, a temporary hold has been placed on your accounts pending a federal review." "Federal review? What federal review?" The line went dead. He floored it not to his house but to the office. He burst past his assistant and stormed into the one office he'd been avoiding. Isabel Croft, his CFO, and Irina's sister looked up, her face pale. "Marcus? What?" They know, he hissed, locking the door. The money. It's frozen. The SEC. Someone talked. Isabel's composed, icy demeanor cracked. What note? That's impossible. Only you and I. Did Irina know? Marcus rounded on her. Did you ever mention the transfers to her? Of course not. Isabel shot back, her voice rising in panic. I hate her. Why would I tell her I was helping her husband ruin her? I've been covering our tracks for a year. Well, you missed something, Marcus roared. She's not just missing. She's doing this, that note. I know what you are. She didn't mean a cheat, Izzy. She meant a criminal. The realization hit them both at the same time. This wasn't a domestic dispute. This was a corporate takedown. The hard drive, Isabel whispered, her eyes wide with terror. The one you gave to that PI. That blonde woman. Serafina Vance, Marcus growled. She played me. Irina must have gotten to her first. She was a double agent. Oh, God, Marcus. Isabel began to hyperventilate. My name is on everything. Calm down, he snapped. We're not done. The accounts are frozen, but the primary server, the one at the Cayman Bank, it's still active. If we can get in, we can initiate a catastrophe transfer to a new clean account in Macau. It's a kill switch. It'll wipe the servers at Fidelity Trust clean. But we can't access it from here, Isabel said. The security protocols, they require the physical encryption key. The key, Marcus said, his eyes lighting up. The key isn't here. It's in the one place no one would ever look. Where? The one place she's been building for a year. The one place she thought was hers. He strode out of the office. The nursery. It's in the nursery. He had been so clever. When Irina had insisted on a state-of-the-art air purifier for the baby's room, he'd obliged. He'd bought the Everest Pure Air 5000, a top-of-the-line model. What Irina didn't know was that he'd hollowed it out. Inside past the filter was a small high-security safe. And inside that safe was the physical USB drive containing the encryption keys to the entire offshore empire. It was the only copy. He'd thought it was poetic. Her nest was built around his biggest secret. Meanwhile, Detective Corbin was frustrated. He was 99% sure Marcus Hayes was a killer, but he had no body. He had Irina's phone, which she'd left behind, a classic runner move. He had Marcus's phone, which was clean, too clean. The man had clearly used a burner. He was grilling Chloe Benson for the third time. I'm telling you, Chloe insisted. Irina isn't a victim. Not in the way you think. She wouldn't just run, she'd fight. She's a forensic accountant. She'd build a case. A case for what? Corbin sighed. Divorce. For everything, Chloe said. Her sister, Isabel. Start there. I'm telling you, she's the key. Irina always said Izzy's been jealous of me since birth. She'd do anything to take what's mine. Corbin's phone rang. It was the forensics lab. Detective. The tech said, you were right. The husband's phone was a bust. But we did a deep dive on the home network like you asked. The Wi-Fi router, someone, not Marcus, was logged into the router's admin panel 2 days ago. From inside the house. They installed a packet sniffer. Meaning what? Corbin asked, sitting up straight. Meaning, they're watching all his internet traffic, every keystroke, every site he visits, and the sniffer is routing all that data to a secure off-site IP. Someone's been spying on him. Corbin looked at Chloe. She's not running. She's hunting. And, the tech added, that IP address just pinged us. It's an automated alert. It's forwarding a new data packet right now. The subject, Marcus Hayes, is currently at his home address and is trying to access, let me see, a secure server based in the Cayman Islands. Corbin was on his feet. He's at the house. He's destroying evidence. Get me 2 units. Now. Marcus and Isabel tore through the house. The media on the lawn scrambled as Marcus's Tesla ripped up the driveway, Isabel's car right behind. Ignore them, Marcus yelled, pushing past the front door. They ran up the stairs to the nursery. The room was just as he'd left it, quiet, calm, and waiting. The purifier, he said, moving toward the high-tech white obelisk in the corner. Marcus, the police, Isabel said, peering nervously out the window. A car. It just pulled up. It's just the media. Get over here and watch the door. Marcus pulled the purifier away from the wall. He unlatched a hidden panel, bypassed the filter, and accessed the small digital safe. He typed in his code. It clicked open. Inside, resting on black velvet, was a small, sleek USB drive. Got it, he breathed. Thank God, Isabel said, relief flooding her face. Now my laptop, in my office. They ran to his home office, the nerve center of his operation. He slammed the door, sat at his desk, and plugged in the drive. Isabel hovered over his shoulder, wringing her hands. Okay, he said, his fingers flying. I'm in. Accessing the Fidelity server, bypassing the SEC freeze, routing to the Macau hub. A series of code windows flashed on his screen. Come on, come on. It's working, Isabel whispered. The transfer bar. It's moving. Just a few more seconds, Marcus said, a triumphant, ugly grin spreading across his face. It's all going. Everything. They get nothing. She gets nothing. Beep, beep. A new window popped up on his screen. It was red. Access denied. File integrity compromised. System lockdown initiated. What? Marcus yelled. What is this? He tried to close the window. It wouldn't close. He tried to pull the USB. The system wouldn't eject. A new file appeared on his desktop. A video file. It was named A Message for Marcus. Don't click it, Isabel screamed. But he already had. The screen flickered and a face appeared. It was Irina. She wasn't in a dark, damp basement. She wasn't at a spa. She was in a clean, well-lit room. She looked healthy. She looked powerful. Hello, Marcus, her voice said, clear and cold. Hello, Izzy. Surprised to see you two together. I'm not. Isabel let out a small, terrified squeak. You're probably wondering what's happening, Irina continued, as if discussing the weather. You see, Marcus, you taught me a lot about security. While you were busy building your empire of lies, I was just studying. The video split. On one side was Irina. On the other side was a live feed of them in the office, right now. A tiny webcam hidden in the monitor was staring right at them. That USB drive, Irina said, was a decoy. A very expensive, very obvious decoy. I swapped it out 3 days ago. The real one is safe with me. The one you just plugged in. That's a little gift I built myself. It's called a honeypot, or in your case, a money trap. Marcus was slamming the laptop, trying to shut it. It was completely frozen. The moment you plugged that drive in, Irina's voice echoed in the room. It didn't just lock you out. It did 3 things. 1, it activated a keylogger and packet sniffer that recorded your every move, including the IP and access codes for your Macau hub. 2, it initiated a full data dump, not a transfer of every single file, every ledger, every secret account from the Cayman server directly to the SEC, the FBI, and just for fun, the IRS. And 3, Irina leaned in close to the camera, her eyes boring into theirs. It sent your exact real-time location along with a copy of your entire criminal enterprise to my new friend, Detective Miles Corbin. As if on cue, the sound of a battering ram smashed through the front door. This is the police. We have a warrant. Hands in the air. Isabel screamed a long, piercing wail. Marcus just stared, dumbfounded at the face of his wife on the screen. You see, Marcus, Irina said, her voice dropping to a whisper. You were right. The baby does deserve better. And so do I. I didn't see you with your affair. I saw you with my investigator. I didn't know what you were. I knew what you were. And the note that wasn't a goodbye. A small, cold smile played on her lips. It was a confession, yours. The screen went black. The office door burst open and Detective Corbin stood there, gun drawn. Marcus Hayes, Isabel Croft. You are under arrest for fraud, embezzlement, and conspiracy. As he was cuffed, Marcus looked at the blank laptop screen, his entire empire, his entire life reduced to a black mirror. He had been so busy watching his back he never realized the person he should have been afraid of was the pregnant woman sleeping next to him. The 6 months that followed the arrests were not a period of peace, but of meticulous, grinding legal warfare. Irina, having given birth to a healthy baby girl named Lily, did not retreat into motherhood. She prepared. She brought the same methodical cold-fire intensity she'd used to track her husband's crimes to the prosecution of those crimes. She was, as the U.S. attorney put it, the prosecution's entire case wrapped in a blanket. The trial of the United States versus Marcus Hayes and Isabel Croft became the must-see spectacle of the season. The media, which had once painted Irina as a tragic vanishing victim, now scrambled to portray her as a mastermind and a corporate avenger. They weren't entirely wrong. The courtroom was a sterile beige box packed to the legal limit. On one side, Marcus Hayes, thinner, his face a mask of simmering, indignant rage. His expensive suits had been replaced by off-the-rack ensembles that hung awkwardly on his frame, a feeble attempt to appear humbled for the jury. Beside him, Isabel Croft was a ghost. Her platinum blonde hair had given way to 2 inches of dark, mousy roots. She stared at her hands, crying silently, refusing to look at her sister, who was sitting poised and calm at the prosecution's table. The prosecution calls Irina Hayes to the stand. Irina walked past the defense table, her steps measured, her gaze fixed forward. She didn't look at Marcus. She didn't look at Isabel. She had seen enough of them. She sat, swore her oath, and looked at the jury, 12 ordinary people who were about to decide the fate of her betrayers. Ms. Hayes, the young, sharp prosecutor began, could you please explain to the jury in your own words what you did after you suspected your husband of infidelity? Arthur Jennings, Marcus's high-priced lawyer, was on his feet. Objection, relevance. We are not here to try a divorce case. Overruled, the judge snapped. It goes to motive and timeline. Proceed, Ms. Hayes. Irina's voice was clear, crisp, and devoid of the melodrama the courtroom craved. I was not a wife suspecting an affair. I was a forensic accountant who had detected a pattern of financial anomalies. The affair, as it turned out, was merely a symptom of a much larger systemic crime. It was a distraction. She spent the next 4 hours walking the jury through the data. She didn't speak of betrayal or broken hearts. She spoke of swift transfers, shell corporations, and encrypted ledgers. She used a laser pointer to show them the digital signatures, the backdated authorizations, the mirrored accounts. She showed them with damning clarity how Marcus and Isabel had systematically siphoned over $70 million from Hayes Innovations, much of it tied to sensitive government contracts. So you see, she concluded, turning to the jury, this wasn't about a broken marriage. This was about a breach of national security facilitated by greed and covered up by a smokescreen of domestic bliss. The air was electric. But Arthur Jennings saw an opening. He approached the stand for his cross-examination, his face a mask of feigned sympathy. Ms. Hayes, he began, his voice dripping with condescension. That was a remarkable story. A story of a woman scorned, wouldn't you say? I would say it's a story of racketeering, Irina replied, unblinking. You were 7 months pregnant. Your hormones, he sneered, the word must have been overwhelming. Is it not true that you were, by your own best friend's admission, paranoid and obsessed with your husband? I was obsessed with the truth, Irina said. My pregnancy is irrelevant. My profession is not. Your profession. You hadn't worked in 2 years. You were a housewife. Is it not true that you hired a private investigator, a Ms. Serafina Vance, to entrap your husband, to play the part of a mistress to plant evidence? I retained Ms. Vance, yes, Irina said calmly. After I discovered my husband had already hired her to manufacture a case of infidelity against me to void our prenuptial agreement, I simply offered her a more compelling and truthful counteroffer. As for entrapment, Mr. Jennings, you cannot entrap someone into committing a crime they have already been committing for 2 years. You can only give them the tools to expose themselves. So you staged your own disappearance, he thundered. You left a hysterical emotional note. You lied to the police. You wasted thousands in public resources, all for this theatrical revenge. Objection, the prosecutor called out. I'll allow it, the judge said, leaning forward. Answer the question, Ms. Hayes. Irina leaned into the microphone. I did not lie, sir. I left. I removed myself and my unborn child from a dangerous and volatile situation. I left a note for my husband that was, as I am under oath, 100% truthful. And I did not waste police resources. I handed Detective Corbin a case that was 99% complete. The theatrics, as you call them, were the only way to get a man like Marcus Hayes, a man who believes he is above all law, to make a mistake. It was the only way to get him to walk into the trap he himself had set. The trap? Jennings scoffed. And what trap was that? The hard drive, the one you admit to planting in his nursery safe. Mr. Jennings. Irina said, a small cold smile touching her lips. My husband wasn't arrested because of the hard drive I planted. He was arrested because while his entire life was imploding, his first and only instinct was to run to his home office with his co-conspirator to access a multi-million-dollar illegal offshore account. He was arrested because his greed was more powerful than his common sense. I didn't trap him. I simply illuminated the bars of a cage he had been building for himself for years. Jennings was silent. He had no more questions. The final devastating blow came the next day. The prosecution played the video, the entire video, the one captured by the webcam in Marcus's office monitor, triggered by the honeypot USB drive. The jury watched in rapt horror as the two most powerful people at Hayes Innovations, the charismatic CEO and the brilliant CFO, dissolved into raw animalistic panic. They watched Marcus slam his fists, watched Isabel hyperventilate. They heard him yell, "She's doing this, that bitch. She's taking it all." They heard Isabel's piercing wail, my name is on everything." And then they watched the split screen as Irina's pre-recorded message played, explaining in cold, precise detail exactly how they had just destroyed themselves. The video ended and the courtroom was silent. The jury was out for less than an hour. On the charge of conspiracy to commit wire fraud, guilty. On the charge of embezzlement, guilty. On the charge of money laundering, guilty. 24 counts in total. Guilty, guilty, guilty. Isabel Croft collapsed a boneless heap and had to be carried from the courtroom by the bailiffs. Marcus Hayes did not move. He simply stared not at the judge, not at his lawyer, but at Irina. His face was no longer angry. It was for the first time empty. He truly saw her, not as his wife, not as a possession, but as the architect of his annihilation. It was a look of pure, unadulterated shock. He had been so busy building his own legend, he'd never read the fine print. Irina adjusted the lapel on her blazer and walked out of the courtroom, never once looking back. The harvest of karma was brutal and swift. Marcus Hayes, as the ringleader and a violator of government contracts, was sentenced to 20 years in a federal medium-security prison. Isabel Croft, for her cooperation after the guilty verdict, a desperate last-ditch attempt to save herself, received 12. Hayes Innovations was dissolved, its assets seized by the government to pay back the contracts it had defrauded. The gleaming glass and steel building was padlocked. The brand Hayes was now synonymous with disgrace. Arthur Jennings was later investigated for his corporate reputation management tactics, which skirted the line of witness tampering. Irina saw her sister one last time in a sterile transport holding area before she was sent to prison. Irina had requested the meeting. Isabel sat behind the thick glass, her face puffy and sallow, her hands cuffed. "Why are you here?" Isabel whispered, her voice raw. "To gloat, to watch me suffer." "No," Irina said, her voice soft. "I'm here to understand." We were sisters. Isabel let out a sound, a broken wet cough that was almost a laugh. Sisters, you were always the brilliant one, the beautiful one, Mom and Dad's favorite. You got the high-powered career. You got him. He was my husband, Izzy. And I was his CFO, she shrieked, slamming her cuffed hands on the table. I was the one who made that company work. I built the financial models, I secured the financing. He saw me. He told me I was the brilliant one. He told me, with you out of the way, we could be. He used you, Izzy. Irina said, the tragedy of it all finally settling on her. He used your jealousy. He used your talent. He used me to build his company, and he used you to rob it. We were just two different tools in his box. He loved me, Isabel whispered, a tear rolling down her cheek. He didn't, Irina said, standing up. He doesn't love anyone, not even himself. He only loves the idea of winning. And in the end, that's what he'll have. A 20-year-long reminder that he lost. Goodbye, Isabel. She left her sister there weeping for a man who had already forgotten her name, a prisoner of a jealousy she had nursed her entire life. A month later, there was a knock on the door of Irina's new apartment. It was a bright, cozy two-bedroom filled with the scattered, happy chaos of a newborn, a playmat, a bottle warmer, a half-assembled mobile. It was a life, not a showroom. She opened the door, baby Lily asleep on her shoulder. Detective Miles Corbin stood there, his hat in his hands. "Ma'am, Ms. Hayes?" he said, shifting awkwardly. "Detective." She smiled. "Please come in. Can I get you a—" "Well, I have water or baby formula." "Water's fine, thanks." He stepped inside his large frame, looking out of place. He accepted the glass and took a sip, mostly to have something to do with his hands. I came by to officially close the missing persons case," he said, a small wry smile on his face. "Paperwork." "I appreciate that, Detective." He looked around the room, so different from the cold, modern mansion he'd first seen her in. "This is nice. You look good. The baby. She's beautiful." "Thank you," Irina said, her voice warm. "We're happy here." An awkward silence fell. "Look, Ms. Hayes," he finally blurted out. "I gotta say, I've been a cop for 20 years. When I walked into that house, when I saw that note, I had a whole story written in my head. Hysterical, hormonal pregnant wife, abusive cheating husband, a domestic dispute turned, well, you know. I was looking for a body." "I know," Irina said gently. "I was looking for a victim," he continued. "But you were never a victim, were you? You were a goddamn predator. You were the lead investigator. You ran your own sting operation. You committed, I don't know, at least a dozen prosecutable offenses. Breaking and entering your own house, evidence tampering, obstruction. You're lucky the U.S. attorney was so grateful." "I was a mother detective," Irina said, her eyes finding his. "I wasn't a vigilante. I was protecting my child. I couldn't go to the police. I had no hard evidence. I was a hormonal pregnant wife. Remember, Marcus would have buried me in court. He would have painted me as unstable and taken my child. The only way to win was to let him think he was winning. The only way to get justice was to let him expose himself." Corbin nodded slowly. "That note. I still think about that note." He pulled a crumpled copy from his pocket, the one from the evidence file. "It's the part that gets me," he said. It was perfect. You weren't explaining why you were leaving. You were explaining why you were staying. To fight." Irina reached out and touched the paper. "It was the truest thing I've ever written," she said. "I saw you." He thought I meant the affair. I meant I saw the real him. The spreadsheets, the offshore accounts, the sociopath. "I know what you are." He thought I meant a cheat. I meant a federal criminal. Don't look for me. He thought I was a missing person. I was telling him, you will not find the weak, broken woman you thought I was. She is gone. The baby deserves better. He thought it was a threat. It wasn't. It was a business plan, a promise, the guiding principle for everything I did next. Corbin tucked the note back into his pocket. He looked at the sleeping baby in her arms. Well, Ms. Hayes, it seems the baby got better. It was an honor in a weird, terrifying way to be on your case. He smiled. Don't ever do it again. I plan on a very, very boring life, detective. I doubt that, he said, tipping his hat. I doubt that very much. 6 months later, the park was golden with late afternoon sun. Irina Hayes sat on a bench, gently rocking a stroller. Lily was cooing, her tiny hands reaching for a wooden toy. Chloe sat next to her, handing her a latte. Okay, so Croft and Benson Financial Solutions. Are we sure about the name? Irina laughed, a real easy laugh that reached her eyes. It's perfect. The irony is delicious. Using your sister's name, the one who tried to ruin you. I'm reclaiming it, Irina said, taking a sip. It's a reminder that a name is just a name. It's what you do with it that matters. Besides, Benson and Hayes sounded too domestic. Chloe rolled her eyes. So our first client, Mrs. DeLuca, did she take the bait? She's not bait, Chloe, Irina said, though she was smiling. She's a woman in a bad spot. Her husband has her on a $200 a week allowance while he's hiding assets in a trust. He's a lot like Marcus, just dumber. So you're helping her set up her own honeypot. I'm helping her perform a financial audit, Irina corrected, pro bono. I'm teaching her how to read a bank statement, how to spot a shell, and how to build a case for her lawyer. I'm not a vigilante, she said, echoing her words to Corbin. I'm just a very good accountant, a consultant. Serafina Vance had been their first and only investor. She'd sent a check for $100,000 to Croft and Benson with a note for the next 10 women who need to burn it all down. Call me when you need a door kicked in. Irina looked at her sleeping daughter, her face a perfect tiny picture of peace. She thought about the life she'd had, the glass house, the expensive cars, the hollow man she'd been married to. It was all so loud. This was better. This was real. She had vanished, yes. She had spotted her husband with his gorgeous affair, and in that moment she had a choice: crumble or calculate. She chose to calculate. The note had been the key. It wasn't an explanation of her despair. It was the invoice for her betrayal. It wasn't the end of her story. It was the opening sentence of her real life. She hadn't been a damsel in distress. She had been a forensic accountant, and she had just begun the most important audit of her life. She had balanced the books. And finally, after all of it, her life was for the first time truly demonstrably in the black. In the end, the note wasn't a document of a victim. It was the first page of a manifesto. Irina Hayes didn't just disappear. She executed a flawless tactical retreat. She proved that the most dangerous person isn't the one who screams, but the one who prepares, the one who watches, and the one who understands that information is a weapon. Marcus and Isabel learned that hard karma isn't just a saying. It's a receipt for every betrayal delivered in full with interest. They thought they were building an empire, but they were just building their own prison. Irina and her baby girl are safe now, a powerful reminder that a new honest life can be built from the ashes of a devastating lie. The gorgeous affair wasn't the enemy. She was the key. And the note, it explained everything, just not in the way anyone expected. What did you think of Irina's intricate plan? Do you believe Marcus and Isabel got the justice they deserved? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you love this story of twists, justice, and ultimate karma, please hit that like button. Share this video with someone who loves a good drama, and most importantly, click subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss one of our real-life stories. Thanks for listening.